my hero. I didn't want to do like an impression or a love letter. Uh, the public Reagan is easy to get to know, but to get my job is to get to a person of their core.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Christian channel. We are especially blessed today to be joined by the Dennis Quaid to talk about his film, Reagan. Dennis, Mr. Quaid, thank you so much for being here.
Well, the Dennis Quaid. How about that? That's
Don't worry, I
that's
promise
like a
that's how I'm
title.
myself, Alan.
It's great to be here.
Oh, it's so great to have you. Ronald Reagan, on a personal note, has been a big part of my life, my whole life. I went out to his Santa Barbara ranch when I was 15, and that's where I met John Boyd.
Ah,
Isn't that so
how
funny? Just walking
about
around.
that?
Yeah.
At the Reagan Ranch, you went up to the top of the hill.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
up the five miles of the worst road in California,
Yeah,
right to the top of that mountain.
but
That's
totally worth it.
yeah.
Can you tell people a little bit, maybe two lines, what this film is about, the angle it takes as we look at our beloved Ronald Reagan?
This movie is about the life of Ronald Reagan, and it's also our story, the American people, throughout the 20th century. Follows him from a boy in Dixon, Illinois, in 1912 to through when he said goodbye to the American people when he was after he was president and diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
Wow. And how did you become attached to the project?
I was approached by the producer, Mark Joseph, who had the script for 10 years. Somehow they figured out that I was the guy and they asked me to do it. And I did not say yes at first because, to tell you the truth, the role really frightened me and felt unworthy. Also, Reagan being so recognizable, like Muhammad Ali, to just about everybody in the world. And I played real people, and I was I'd voted for Reagan. He was my favorite president. I didn't want to do like he was my hero. I didn't want to do like an impression or a love letter. Uh, the public Reagan is easy to get to know, but to get my job is to get to a person of their core and play from their point of view, and that took time for me. And it was about a month later, I was invited to the Reagan Ranch that we were talking about, and drove up those 5 miles of bad road and came out onto the place. And I realized that Reagan was a humble man. And I could feel him. I could feel his core there, who he was in that place. He really did do all the work. I mean, that house, I mean, you saw it. It's 1,100 square feet. It's barely a 2-bedroom house. And this is the Western White House. Then they had a king size bed, but it was 2 single beds that were zip tied together. And their clothes are in the closet. Just and you expect Ron and Nancy to come back like any moment, really. And that into that bookshelf where he had every book he had ever had in his life, going back to when he was 9 years old, is on that shelf. And I could feel him as a person, and that's what compelled me to say yes, because I had a way into him as a human being.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I know that you're a man of faith, and a discussion I've been having with a lot of people lately is you can't always tell someone about Christ. They're not always going to be immediately receptive. Sometimes you can just give Christ-like figure to introduce them to the concept of redemptive suffering and sacrifice. Ronald Reagan was a man who made huge personal sacrifices. And I'm wondering, I guess, as you entered into this role that is so deeply personal for you, was it ever painful? Did it take something from you to become this person and to do this role?
I can't say that it was painful. I mean, it was a struggle. I accepted the role, and then it was another 2 years of getting the money together and shooting it. And then along comes COVID, and we shot this movie during COVID. We were one
Wow.
of the first films to, to really kind of like to go out and do it. The 2 weeks into it, a shooting, somebody in the crew got COVID, and then we had shut down for a month. And then we kept going in Oklahoma there, and picked up at where we left off, and got to the very end, the assassination scene where, in the hospital underneath the hospital there in Oklahoma, in this clinic. We shot the hospital scene where Reagan comes after he's been shot. And that night, everybody on the crew, not everybody, but a large portion of the crew got COVID. There's so many extras and things. And then luckily we were at the end. And then we shot in the Western White House there at the ranch, which was really special because we are doing scenes that actually took place there. Penelope Ann Miller, who plays Nancy, she's so great. And that made it very special. And then afterwards, it's been 4 years since we, shot the movie. In fact, coming out on August 30th, and it's almost 4 years to the day that we started shooting it. So it's been a struggle to do, but it was also been something joyful.
And struggles are best and joys are best when you're joined by an incredible crew. Like you mentioned Penelope, but you also have David Henry playing a young Reagan as well, right?
Right. David Henry and John Voight, who plays, the story is told from the point of view of a KGB officer who, I mean, the Soviets really had a file on Reagan going way back, to his time really as an actor and as president of the Screen Actors Union. That Soviets were trying to infiltrate the unions. In fact, back then, come to find out that wasn't a conspiracy theory. It was actually true. And in a way, this is a story of the Cold War. It's the story of the American people, and it's really the story of this person, Ronald Reagan.
It's such a great, unique perspective that adds so much depth to the story. One other thing that you and Ronald Reagan have in common is that you're both Renaissance men. You have a gospel album, right?
Yes, yeah, I came out last year. It was actually #1 when it came out on DVDs. That's like for 2 minutes, I was kind of like outselling Taylor Swift on DVDs. So kind of goes to your head, and it did really well, and really happy about it. It's very personal process making it. Half the songs are from my growing up in the Baptist church, hymns that were my favorites, and the other half are songs that I wrote that put them all together. That kind of it's really kind of the story of my spiritual journey through life, and coming to a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
That's incredible. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention you also had your Grand Ole Opry premiere 3 years ago, correct?
Yeah, I've done the Opry now, I think about 5 or 6 times, and it's just very special every time I go back there.
Yeah, it is really remarkable the parallels between you and Ronald Reagan's lives, just these expansive lives. And I think it's going to be an inspiration, both, if you don't mind me saying this, the Dennis Quaid. I'm sorry, that's how I think of you. I'm not saying that's how you think of you. It's inspiring to people who sometimes get this narrative in their mind that you have to pick one and do one, and you can only be good at one. And both of your stories of transferable skills and people who just follow the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit doesn't limit himself to one track. So thank you for going.
Well, I believe God has a purpose in our lives, and it's finding something. I tell my kids, find something you love to do, then figure out a way to get paid for it.
Yeah.
And you'll have like a third of your life kind of figured out, and you'll never work a day in your life. And it's finding that God's purpose for us it's very important for us to seek what is God's purpose in our life. And you know what? It's still unfolding for me too, every day. And that's what really gives me some energy, because what else is out there?
Seriously. At the end, you see everything, you do everything, and you realize it really was just you and God all along.
Yeah, that's what you start with and what you end with. That's all there is. And most important relationship in your life. But on another note, the movie's coming out August 30th, and people can go to Reagan.movie
Yeah.
now and reserve a ticket now for it. We did have group sales, and now we have individual sales that are starting July 4th. And I think there's something for everybody in every generation in this film.